Hello and welcome to Forum for a Better Understanding. Over the past 6 years, it's been my privilege to host many exciting and important discussions here around this table. But today I think I have one of the most important topics that we have yet discussed on the forum. I don't know if it's me, but I think there is a harshness, a meanness, a bitterness, a real negative attitude in the media, especially on radio, often enough on television, that is really at the heart of tremendous violence in our society. I am so privileged today to be hosting a discussion with 6 people who are conveners of a project that is going to deal with this. This project is called Citizens for Civility and Accountability in the Media, and it's going to be your pleasure, I hope, to learn what it is that they've been working on and what it is we can be doing to return to some sort of humanity in the way that we speak of world situations. My first guest is Les Kimber, who is the founder of the California Advocate and the initiator of this very important project in town. Across from me is Vicki Fouts, who is director of the Uprooting Racism Project and has been working on projects like this for a long time now. Finally, directly across from me is Richard Stone, who is a founding board member of the Fresno Center for Nonviolence and one of those very much committed to social progressive issues here in the Valley. I wondered, Les, if you could begin by telling us how this program, this issue of yours, became a project.
Well, about a year ago, in fact, October of last year, a group of us met at the Fresno Center for Nonviolence to discuss our concerns over the proliferation of hate speech on KMJ radio and conservative talk show hosts. We realized that hate speech can create an atmosphere that can cause violence. And a perfect example of that was the life of Dr. Martin Luther King, the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. King was demonized on a daily basis, called communist, socialist, and so forth. So much so until his assassin, James Earl Ray, thought he was doing the country a favor by assassinating Dr. King. We are concerned that unless people speak out, we're returning to those days where folks are demonized on a daily basis. That's going to cause, sooner or later, some extreme friends to take them more seriously than they ought to and do harm to an elected official, to an organization, or any other individual that they demonize constantly. From 9 a.m. until 11 at night, 5 days a week, KMJ hosts have some of the most conservative, anti-talk shows of any station in the country, I believe. So we felt that, we can't just stand by and allow that to happen.
We know we can't stand back, and I wonder, Vicki, what the conveners did before having that press conference in May, which we'll see a clip of that later. What did you all do?
Like Les said, we started meeting about weekly, about a year ago. We did write a letter to KMJ voicing our concerns about all this rhetoric that they have. They answered saying that our concerns were unfounded. So in February, we answered back to them and pointed out again what our concerns were. Last October and December and this July, we held community meetings so we could educate the public about hate radio and ask for their help. At these meetings, we came up with different ideas, such as contacting Fresno State about having their games on KMJ and how that might be against their mission statement, writing letters to KMJ and letters to the editor. We came up with a petition for KMJ asking them to alter their programming in order to curtail practices that we believe are damaging to our social fabric. And that petition is on our website, or you can download petitions and help us collect signatures. So those are some things we've been doing before the press conference.
Now, Richard, at the press conference, it was a privilege to be there. KNXT filmed it. What was the express goal? Because you were very clear at what you meant to do and what you didn't mean to do. What was your express purpose?
Our goal is to get enough community support that KMJ will pay attention to us. When we wrote them, they said we had no right to interfere with their business practices, and besides that, their commentators are only providing entertainment. And it's on us to demonstrate that it's not just entertainment, that they have an effect on the community. And one of the things that happened immediately after our press conference, and it was blacked out by almost every station except yours and a couple of other alternative newspapers, but the only one who covered it was KMJ. They had comments by Rush Limbaugh and Ray Appleton, and as a result of their comments and nothing else, we were deluged with vile, angry, threatening emails.
You know, I was there, so I have a very clear idea of what was said and what wasn't. Now, one person who wasn't able to join us today is Venancio Gaona. Let's hear what Venancio shared, because he also was very clear at the precise issue that was being raised, very articulately, very clearly. Let's hear Venancio.
There's no membership.
Oh, guys.
The Federal Communication Commission has granted a radio license to KMJ AM to broadcast, and in the spirit of fair play and responsible broadcasting,
Hi, Ellie.
we expect programming that reflects the constant change of diverse interests of the service area's population on socioeconomics, politics, and education, rather than creating a sense that different beliefs are unacceptable and anti-U.S. values. The KMJ AM radio programming continues to nurture a negative image on issues or leaders who might impact the residents in the station's service area. The United States holds general elections every 4 years to reflect a change as perceived by the country's citizens. KMJ AM should also consider changing its programming format to reflect a variety of socioeconomic, political, and educational perceptions on how to improve the United States. Thank you, and again, thank you for being here with us today.
Very clear, very dispassionate, easily understood. What would it be that each of you could tell me is the main problem that you would see that needs to be addressed about KMJ and also other radio stations and TV stations in their way of covering the news that we are seeing every day of our lives? Les, the worst thing.
Well, I think any business in Fresno has an obligation to do what is best for the community as a whole. Fresno and the Valley is probably one of the most diverse areas in the country, and to allow KMJ Radio or any other business for that matter to devote their time to things that divide us rather than bring us together is what we have to deal with. The fact that KMJ is the home of the Bulldogs is a contradiction. Cal State University is a public institution that has as its charter diversity, yet they do business with a station that has no diversity. So those are the things that we want to deal with.
Vicki, personally, what irritates you the most?
I feel that the inflammatory stereotyping and hateful rhetoric against different groups in our community can lead to violence. That's my major concern.
Richard, you've you have a real pulse of the community. What most bothers people who are sensitive to real issues?
Well, I think, this is not a free speech issue, and we're not saying that the commentators don't have a right to speak their mind and to say what they believe. But there are two things. One is there's a bumper sticker that says you're entitled to your opinion, but you're not your own facts. And they feel free to invent things like they did about us. They said that we wanted KMJ off the air. No one had ever said that. They will put in whatever they want to make a point, and without constraint. And that's very dangerous. And it's based on a political belief that truth is what you make it, that there is no objectivity to truth. And I think that's very dangerous. And the other thing is, by continually repeating the same point of view over and over and allowing no space for anyone else or any other opinion, it solidifies people in positions and makes them intolerant of other possibilities. And this is dangerous to people in the way they deal in the world. It's also dangerous to us as a society.
Vicki, you raised one issue that was very powerful to me, quoting Dr. King. Could you share that with us and let us know why that is really the heart of the issue, is what we're working out of? Hate.
Yeah, the hate that you hear all the time on talk shows really makes me fear for the life of President Obama and his family. I'm really afraid of violence just breaking out all over our country. Let's say if some violent hate crime did take place, would our city's streets just become, riot areas? And also, I'm concerned when people take guns to public events and others tell people to buy guns and ammunition to take back their country. That's just real scary for me. And so I closed my remarks at the press conference by quoting Martin Luther King, and I'd like to do that now. Like an unchecked cancer, hate corrodes the personality and eats away its vital unity. Hate destroys a man's sense of values and his objectivity. It causes him to describe the beautiful as ugly and the ugly as beautiful, and to confuse the true with the false and the false with the true.
Amen.
Les, what has been the response after the conference in May? What effect have you seen, up or down, positive or negative, towards your group and also towards the type of programming that is ensued after May?
Yeah, well, we're getting good response from organizations, especially people of color, in terms of what we're doing. The fact, again, that since this area is so diverse, for anybody to pick groups against each other is to be a crime, and it's sure a sin in the eyes of Jesus. Unfortunately, we have folks, Maynard Jackson used to have a saying that says, beware of those who shout hallelujah and at the same time are sucking it to you in the name of the Lord. We have folks now who are using Christianity, if you will, as a hatchet to beat up folks. And that's not Jesus-like.
Not at all. Unfortunately, we need to take our break at this moment, but we will be back in 1 minute with the second half of our program with an exact new panel. So please, don't go anywhere. Come right back and join the second half of our program. Till then,
KNXT thanks all its loyal viewers and respected businesses who have supported your Catholic television station. Now you can support KNXT with program underwriting by having your name, your company's name, or organization associated with your favorite program. Detailed information about you or your company will appear before and after each program or day part you select. Keep the quality and spiritual message alive and make a difference. Call 559-488-7440 today or go online at knxt.tv to find out more about program underwriting on KNXT.
welcome back to the second half of our very important Forum for a Better Understanding program around the issue of citizens who are forming a group for civility and accountability in the media. What a needed group at this point in our history. It is depressing to see the news being presented the way it is on the radio and often enough on TV. Now we have three new guests. Our first guest to my left is Dr. Sue Kapoor, whom many of you know as a retired professor from Fresno State University, and is here in his capacity, though, as one of those initial conveners of the Citizens for Civility. Across from me would be Ellie Bluestein, who from 1964 on, when she first came to Fresno, has enriched us with her social commitments in so many areas, especially in Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And for all that she does, she also joined this group early on, board member, founding member. And across from me is our good friend, Seyed Ali Ghazvini, who is the Imam, the spiritual leader of the Islamic Cultural Center of Fresno, celebrating at this very moment Ramadan, and joining with us because the implications of hate radio are impacting directly the Islamic community, not only locally, but of course locally. Madeira, you must remember the mosque being vandalized, but across this country, Islamophobia is on the rise, nurtured and engendered by hate radio and hate TV. On that note, Sue, could you begin by telling us why it is that this idea of Les Kimbers to form a group struck you as necessary and imperative to do?
Thank you very much, Jim, for having us on your panel, on your station here. It always has been a pleasure to be here. I have been here many times before. Thanks for having us.
Very welcome.
And before that, I also would like to wish my friend Imam happy Ramadan, and to all my Muslim brothers and sisters, in spite of all what's going on or they are going through, we certainly wish them a very, very happy Ramadan.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here with us, and also, no doubt, my old friend, well, old in the sense, many, many years. The reason I got involved, Jim, is that I have been involved in this community for the last many decades in issues, in topics that very much affect the quality of life in this community. Particularly for the last several months, we have been noticing that the media, particularly the radio station, one of them locally, has been using its power, its privilege, its contracts, its license in a very abusive manner. They do have good programs, but they have number of hosts on their station that have nothing else to do except spewing hatred, hatred, and hatred. So I got very much concerned about it, along with Les Kimber, with whom I have also worked for many, many years in this community. God bless him. He is a very noble soul, very conscientious person who is very much committed to see that there is a peace in our community. That was one of the major reasons, and I have been also coordinating each year Stop the Hate, Stop the Violence activities in the community. We used to have a number of institutions involved in the community, City College, Pacific University. They are all doing in their own ways, but at Fresno State, since 1990, we have been celebrating and paying homage to prophet of nonviolence and peace, Mahatma Gandhi. So as a part of that celebration, we observe a week known as Stop the Hate, Stop the Violence, and Build a Culture of Peace and Nonviolence. So that's another reason that I have been pretty much concerned about this inflammatory, poisonous climate being created in our community. You never know what may happen as a result of this thing. And I feel very strongly what happened in Madeira is the result of that.
Ellie, you've been involved in so many ways of being progressively positive. Why is it that this grabbed you and made you commit to this as one more thing you have to do?
Because it's so important to have a community of understanding. We have a community in Fresno that is so diverse, almost 100 different groups, ethnic groups, and different religious groups. We have to get together, or there's no community. we found out that organizations, businesses that are looking for a place to come and start a business reject Fresno because it is known as a place where there is dissension in the community. And we don't want that. It's hard to live, no matter what your point of view. It's hard to live in a community where there is distrust or hatred among peoples. And sometimes it's submerged and people aren't aware of it. But in this case, it has come to the fore with such a vehemence that it is really frightening. And it affects people directly. It affects me directly. I don't listen to KMJ all the time, but somebody told me to turn it on, and there I heard that the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom is a communist organization. And
that means you're a communist.
That's right. And that Peace Fresno supports terrorism. I think the media have a responsibility to speak the truth and to deal with people in a civil way. And so both of these issues are important to me. So that affected me directly, but I see how it affects other people, and it's very disturbing to me. A black minister from West Fresno was on the Ray Appleton show to speak to an issue in West Fresno. And Ray Appleton said, "You are a bald-faced liar." And the minister said, "I don't want you to call me a bald-faced liar." And Ray Appleton said, "I don't give a damn what you want," and hung up on him. And that's the lack of civility, the sense that you can't really express yourself. It's supposed to be open for people to express themselves. But if you disagree with what is said, with the commentator, then you're not allowed to speak your mind.
You know, there's one more aspect, too, that Dr. Jean Kennedy is going to address right now. A lot of these institutions in town have a very clear core value system, but she's finding them being compromised by their commitment to somehow support or be supported by KMJ. Let's hear Jean as she shares her own confusion over this ambivalence.
I want to talk about, my concerns are about KMJ's prime time programming. Balancing programming is not too much to request from a radio station that claims to cover a wide listening audience. KMJ advertises for many socially conscious organizations, such as the Provarella House, whose mission statement would disagree with the type of one-sided programming that is allowed to take place. The People's Church, Reverend G.L. Johnson, who also features a sermon about God's love and compassion on KMJ each Sunday morning, is followed by the insensitivity and disrespectful commentaries that Rush Limbaugh puts out on KMJ. I find myself asking the question, does the attack put out by KMJ radio host complement those organizations I mentioned? I find myself asking the same question when I review the City of Fresno's and Fresno City College's core value tenants, both of whom advertise on KMJ. And again, I find myself questioning, how does KMJ truly reflect those organizational core values statements? When these radio hosts promote all this passionate hostility over the airways. I personally don't believe the hostile attack of the radio host Sean, Mark Levin, or Glenn Beck, along with our local radio host Inger Bark, Ray Appleton, and the Reverend Jim Franklin, mirrors these organizations' core value.
Imam, you're here in a special capacity. You spoke at the press conference, but you said things then that have been proven true. How is it that you see the connection between hate radio and violence and tremendous vandalism committed against the Islamic community?
Well, the vandalism happened at Madeira Islamic Center 2 weeks ago. It's a testimony of this call for violence and creating hatred. There is a difference when someone expresses his or her opinion and when they are deliberately asking or creating hate among people towards certain segment of our people in our society, and this actually was reflected. We've seen it in the news. Many Islamic centers, not only in locally but nationwide, have received threatening letters, nasty messages on. And this is the line that we want to make sure everyone knows. We are not against expressing opinions. This is a free country. But when you target the rights, the constitutional rights of American citizens in this land, and you create fear among certain people against their fellow Americans, this is where someone crosses the line and creates damage. And this is not American, absolutely not. This is something what we want to make it clear and stop it right there. Stop the hate, stop the violence.
Now there's a website we want to introduce you to. It's called FresnoStopHate.org. And when you go there, you'll be able to find out more about this Citizens for Civility and Accountability in the Media. And you'll be able to not only meet them, but find out what you can be doing to join their commitment. This is something that we have to stand up not only for the Islamic community, but for people of color, for people of different ideologies, from people of different gender preferences. There are too many people being critiqued and beaten down by this hate radio. We want you to know there's also the chance that you could see this program on youtube.com, KNXT1. This whole program could be seen again. And we hope you'll join us at knxt.wordpress.com to be able to share your reflections about this important issue. We hope you enjoyed this program and that you'll be back next week for another edition of the Forum. God bless.